Hello, my name is Alexey Ionov, and today I'm going to share some of my experience with how to configure Agile release trains and the solution train in the situation when business is changing a lot. A small introduction: I have 20 plus years managerial experience both on the customer and provider side. In 2017 I have found a company which is called Ionov and Partners. Today we have the largest amount of people trained in all roles within Scaled Agile framework. We have made the first full-scale implementation of SAFe in Russia, and now we're at the implementation number 3. So now we're doing the third full-scale implementation of SAFe in the country. Coming back to what was the request from our client, and when actually we need this extreme agility and when we need to shift our approach for building Agile release trains. Now, the world is not very stable, as you may know. We are in the VUCA world, which is turbulent, and on top of that we need to make changes. Our company is going through mergers and acquisitions. We do change the structure. We sometimes launch or decommission huge business products which require changing in how we position teams within the train or the trains themselves within the value streams. We change investment strategy, for example, when we change some strategic themes, when we change a vision a lot, we need to realign. Sometimes we increase or decrease headcount or move teams or even the whole trains between value streams or solution trains. And sometimes we either invite or refuse a significant amount of outsourcing developers or any outsourcing stuff, which also impacts how we should align within our company. And those are times when we need to deliver a single vision, a single message to the lots of people, and it is actually quite hard to distinguish which train does which value. And that's exactly the situation we were in. According to Scaled Agile framework, we have one of the guardrails which requires business owners to participate in all major Agile release train events. And this is fantastic because they are making sure that the train is running towards the best value achievable, that the money spent in the right way, and that the people on teams have the same understanding of what we're aiming at. However, sometimes they want to have a huge amount of people to communicate to. Sometimes they need to deliver a single message to share a vision or some guidelines or a corporate level strategic roadmap to a large amount of people and answer lots of questions to different team and team members. And that is a challenge because lots of teams, and actually I'm talking about the amount of teams quite beyond the limit of 125 people, which we assume to be the most efficient Agile release train. So we're talking about hundreds of people. And in Scaled Agile framework, there is a solution train which can solve the problem by aligning various Agile release trains and making them sort of separate, but by having a pre and post PI planning to align different trains. Now, in our case, high managers they refuse to do that. They're saying no. We want everyone in the same room, and we want to deliver a single message, and we want to work out all the dependencies and all the priorities within the large amount of people. And that was a huge challenge. There was a reason for that. They they understood that the time is limited and they cannot participate 5 PI plannings one after another because it will take a week or two, and they wanted to squeeze it and to be as impactful as possible. Now, if we just would take teams and bring them into the room and create a single program board, it can be an endless program board, because you can imagine how difficult it would be to work with program board with 20, 25 or more teams. On the top of that, we're saying, okay, but let's try to distinguish which teams are aligned to which value, and let's do a separate Agile release trains, so at least we can put features into the specific train. They said, no, we don't know that at the moment. We have some ideas, but that will not be obvious until the end of the PI planning, because we want to talk to people, we want to understand the problems, we want to understand the limitations, the capacity, connected to how teams see what they can really do. And the input was that we could not, sitting together with the stakeholders, with business owners, we could not clearly distribute features within different Agile release trains. And that was a challenge. And we thought, whoa, that would be a huge problem to have such a large program board. So in the end of the day, it was not possible for the product team, for product managers, for business owners to form features in groups, because they wanted to understand the feedback from the teams, and they wanted to have the end discussion among themselves also with the teams at the PI planning. So we tried once to have a large amount of teams on the same program board. It wasn't very good experience, because the program board becomes huge and unreadable. So we thought, no, that's something we shouldn't do. So what are the prerequisites if someone would now ask me how to work with the situation? First, even if we cannot distinguish to which Agile release train or which team goes, we still obliged to think of Agile release trains and the solution train. We still need to do value stream mapping. We still need to understand which are the key roles and which train this team most probably will belong to. Although we keep in mind that the situation may arise that some features which they will receive can be from another Agile release train. We're keeping as tight to the framework as we can. But then we need to do some adjustments. What is the goal? The goal, well, for the business, I mean, they say, okay, you guys know the framework, you should just do it. And we want to observe the whole thing in one event. And our arguments that, yeah, but the trains will not be as efficient as they might be, or yeah, but the events will be waste of time for some people. No, they say no. We want to observe the whole thing. We want to talk to all teams we have in one room. Still, we need to understand, and the best way to understand is from the value stream mapping and Agile release trains identification workshop. Which values are we creating within this ad hoc train solution train? In our case, it was 5 different ad hoc Agile release trains, so 5 types of value. For each type of value, we need to have a separate program board. And That is the first step to simplify how we manage this situation. The team will work if they are connected to a certain value with a separate program board. And at the same time, business owners, executives will be in the room, will observe the whole thing, and the only thing we need here is to have their agreement that it will be different program boards. I don't see that as a problem, because most thing business owners, executive concentrate is to give input, to answer questions, and to accept the PI objectives. That is the main focus. For the program board, it is more with product management team, and with them it's quite obvious that it will be easier for them to work with backlogs if they will be arranged by types of value this whole solution train is providing. That's the decision we have made, and that was a very good decision because it allowed other things to happen. The PI planning itself is huge and was huge, and it was above 300 people, and there are some concerns we need to take into account. First of all, we have a separate program boards, and we are naming and making sure that everybody in the room knows where the program board with a certain value is in the room. Therefore, product managers, team members, anyone in the room will know where to look if they want to find whether this feature is taken by a team. But we don't put the name of the teams into those boards. We say to the teams that there are several boards, and if you have a feature which aligns with a certain value, please put it on that board. This gives a situation that for some teams they could have several boards which they work with. But that is less of an issue than having endless size of the program board. And we still track internal-ish dependencies. Sure, we will have them. However, it is easier to manage because the one thing is to have this separate program boards, and the second is normally you have your business aligned around the same thing, around the same pieces of value. Therefore, stakeholders most likely to be around a single kind of owned board, which is good, which does make sense because they will concentrate on their part. Therefore, when the team is receiving a feature, they're saying, okay, yeah, this is within this board, and if there is no name of that team on that program board, they put the name on the swim lane and put the feature and do all the things which is very well explained within the framework. That is the step number one. The second thing we need to take into account is that this event is huge, and we really need several RTEs to run the event. We had 3 for 300 plus people in the event. Basically, the idea is the same as 1 RTE per 125 people Agile release train. Therefore, if you have 300 people, have at least 3 RTE, which was exactly what we did. And this helps because RTE can sync quite often within the event and go help different teams or stakeholders or facilitate events to solve problems which arise during the PI planning. Another issue which may occur is that if you have 20 plus teams within the PI planning, Scrum of Scrums might take a while. What we have created a separate flip chart per each Scrum of Scrums, and each Scrum Master, before they were saying what is the situation, how they're working, and whether they have issues, they are feeling in front of the other Scrum Masters. Actually, it's a joint exercise. All the Scrum Masters, they are filling the board on the flip chart, and after that, when it is filled, they are kind of saying what is an issue and where is their team. This simplifies and makes the process quicker. As soon as all issues are outlined, several RTEs, they divide issues they need to work with among themselves, and they go solve those issues simultaneously. Each team, they work exactly the same as they would within the normal PI planning in terms of the team space. They have a separate iteration per flip chart sheet, and one for risks, one for objectives. It's absolutely the same. No changes are needed there. What should be taken into account is that when we are presenting PI objectives, it is almost impossible to gather this huge amount of people around the single team's flip chart. What we did, we took photos, and we had several screens within our huge room, and those photos were brought up when they were discussing a certain iteration or risks or PI objective. And of course, microphones are used when someone is asking the question. It is being translated through the loudspeaker, so everyone in the room hears what discussion is going on and can look at the screen. Another good option might be having a camera person with a camera pointing at the discussion and at the board from time to time, so people who is not able to see with their own eyes can look at the screen and have an understanding what is going on during this team's presentation or Q&A part. To summarize, what are the changes to PI planning? First is to have value stream mapping and Agile Release Trains identification workshops still, to have the understanding which trains you would suppose to have. Second, each piece of value takes a separate program board. It can be the case that a single team have features at the different program boards, although we need to minimize this as much as possible, but that's the whole thing. Next one, have several RTEs running the event. In case of 300 people in the room, it is at least 3 RTE who are running the event. We need to have a checklist which is pre-filled at the beginning of the Scrum of Scrum, and then divide all issues between RTEs so that they can go work with those issues. Photos broadcasted across the room, or have a camera which is pointing at the certain PI objectives being discussed. That is the PI planning. But that is not all things we need to adjust for this situation. We need to adjust how we do our things. Again, the problem is the same. Too many teams, and not all teams are participating in the same value. What we did is that for each ad hoc train, for each type of value is being created by Agile Release Train, we created a separate art sync event, either a separate Scrum of Scrum and PO syncs, or a united event. It doesn't matter. The thing is that the only matters is that we need to have a separate art syncs per ad hoc train. That's the number one. And the second thing is that we need to switch to delegates. If a Scrum Master or a Product Owner can participate in the event, or several events with several ad hoc arts, fine. If not, they, within their teams, assign delegates. and those delegates participate in the Scrum of Scrum, they participate in Product Owner Sync, and then it's also important to bring back this information into their team and broadcast it within the team, following the next daily stand-up or have a separate short meeting. It also needs to be considered that you cannot run several PO syncs or Scrum of Scrums at the same time. Not because you lack of RTs, you have 3 RTs, but because you don't know upfront in how many art syncs each team should participate. However, if the team is not participating in certain value, they don't have to send anyone to this event. The next thing we need to consider is how we do system demo and inspect and adapt. Again, we have lots of teams, and if we do it in the single event, it will take huge amount of time. Since we already have done value stream mapping, we have aligned teams with the separate program boards with the different types of value being created. This also sort of aligned our stakeholders. Because normally in the organization they are very close to one type of the value. Therefore, when we are doing a system demo, we can do a separate system demo for each type of value. Ideally, the whole team participates. However, if it is too long of event or there are some other issues, again, this story with delegates work. And also, it is very handy to use team reviews to give some input to the stakeholders. What happened in the real life is that the members of the stakeholders teams, of operations team, they came to team reviews to get the first impression or to dig into details, and then when we had the system demo, they gave their own input to the stakeholder or to the chief stakeholder, and the team have shown only the most significant, the most valuable or the most complex functionality, not digging too much into details, since stakeholder representatives already been there at the team review and they have seen what works as they were expecting and which does not. To summarize, several system demos, one per each ad hoc train, delegates from the teams, ideally whole team participates, stakeholder alignment with those separate system demos, and leverage as much as possible team reviews. That is the way we have solved the issue of huge amount of teams doing a single system demo. Another thing which needs to be taken into account, that it would be too long if we do PI system demo and quantitative measurements for all PI objectives for all our teams, for all our ad hoc trades within the same event. Thus, we need to separate PI system demo and quantitative measurement per ad hoc train. There is also a very good practice when we, as soon as the PI objective is considered completed, team asks to score this objective at that system demo, not delaying it until the PI system demo. As much as we can, we should give scoring and finalize PI objectives before the inspect and adapt event. It doesn't mean that we are not showing all the objectives and having some final discussions. No, we should do that. However, all the acceptance sort of discussions about the value achieved preferably should happen at the system demo. And PI system demo is something when you kind of showing the final picture, bringing up the final score, and making the final decisions in terms of how the whole program increment went. Then we do a problem-solving workshop. At this workshop, we can gather a whole 300 people all together, but we need to heavily rely on online voting tools, on such facilitation techniques like World Cafe and lots of others to minimize time. Since it's a large event with a large amount of people, we need to prepare to this event on the team level as well. What is suggested is to do team level PI retrospective and do a separate retrospective for Scrum Masters team, including the RTE, and to product managers and product owners team. And then you collect all suggestions from those retrospectives and bring them to inspect and adapt event. You can add something right at the event and have the summarized list of issues which you vote on, and select the issues you are going to concentrate to. You might have more results with a larger inspect and adapt if you're able to provide a good facilitation to the event. Is it easy? No, it is not. I would even say that actually, if you have a chance to avoid working with Adhoc Trains, I would do that. Why? Because the Dunbar's number is still valid. Above 150 people, we start to forget who is doing what. What is this person? Is he or she on the train? What is the role? And therefore, it's not advisable to have Agile release train beyond 125 plus people. If we're growing our Agile release trains beyond 150 to 200 people, we start significantly building bureaucracy, we're introducing delays, and actually that is what impedes the agility, that is what impedes the goal of having lean agile in the first place. Even having a separate scrum of scrums, even having a separate ad hoc trains aligned to the different types of value created, team members still have to filter out what is not considered interesting for them. And this is a waste of time. If most of things happening within the train is interesting and should be considered by most of the train members, then we're building the effective Agile release train. The ad hoc train configuration can be useful when organization is going through the major change, regardless of the nature of this change. Still, when we are looking into the rapid, preferably exponential growth of our organization, the preferable configuration is having the normal 125 plus people on the train, and if we're synchronizing the train, we are building the solution train on top of that, and we are putting as much as we can the cross-functionality, the independence into our Agile release trains and into the solution trains if we're building the large-scale solution. If the top management wants to keep this ad hoc configuration for a long time, I would say that there can be several reasons. One is that basically this configuration is about moving people to work as in the good old waterfall days. That is not something we want. We want to have a stable team, we want to have a stable train, and we want to formulate our requirements in the form of epics, features, and user stories in the way which makes the team or the whole train most efficient. The second thing is that if there is a constant need to talk directly to all teams from the stakeholder standpoint, I would say there is an issue with the decentralization of decision making. Another reason why managers may want to keep that is when there is a lack of trust in the organization. Actually, it's connected to the previous issue. This setup is making executives more effective by making teams less efficient. And in the reality, that's not how we want, because the value is created by teams. The team is main building block of our product development, and we want both for a team to be as efficient as possible, and for executives and business owners to be able to come home and eat their lunch. And the only way of doing that properly is decentralization of decision making, building cross-functional teams and Agile release trains, and having them as stable as possible to deliver value as quickly as possible. Hope you find this interesting. If you want to learn more about us, please visit our website. We also have our YouTube channel, and we run Russian communities on the Meetup and in the Facebook. So in case you speak Russian, come and join, and we can discuss lots of topics around Scaled Agile framework and how to make the best of it. If you want to have more information about this case or other topics, please drop me an email, and wish you luck with your transformations, your practice, and be safe. Cheers.